seeing something specific to UI, and we have also seen broadcast receiver service, and yesterday we saw location specific application which may require your location. Now slightly things are going off the track because so far we've been saving the content in the local storage. I mean, not to be confused with JavaScript local storage. I'm saying like SQLite and preference manager. What if you sometime the situation may come, you need to bring the data from internet and display it in your app and handle request and response callbacks. And that's primarily, if you notice, enterprise application development. This is the one of the important point, uh, because most of the time the business logic would be in a server and the data would be in a different database engine. So the application developer, who works on the web backend, will give you a web service which is based off JSON or XML for uh, multiple client support. For example, if the data has to be sent to a different client, you can use a web service in order to populate in your app. So in this case, Android, how to handle this kind of a scenario? How to request some data from web and how to handle the request and response callback. For example, you have a login form, you need to enter a username and password. The username and password sent to a remote server with a given URL, maybe using HTTP post like a form, and the server validates and give you a message stating login success or failure, and you have to receive it and take appropriate action in your app. So it is going to be slightly time taking one as well, and of course it require internet or network level access, but most of the enterprise application works in this way. And one of example or one of exercise what I was thinking, and of course I'm working on it, uh, a banking app, internet banking app. It's primarily based on the web service, so no data is going to be saved in your phone. It's going to be a remote server which is going to validate and monitor your login process and throughout. For example, doing transaction viewing statement, doing fund transfer, apply for credit card, apply for a loan. Every request and response is going to be uh, I mean uh, it's going to be sent to server, and the response, for example, your request is received and this is your request number, something like that. The response comes from the server, you're going to display it. So time to look at what is web service and how to handle them. Before I would like to say, like to do a small example on how to handle the callbacks. For example, how to make a request to a remote server and how to receive the response, and what way our app is going to be responsive, or is there any other challenges. Those things we would like to see it first, and after that probably we can get into a deeper side, because I was trying to access Google web service, but it needs a API key, so I need to tell you how to obtain the API key. Slightly a roundabout way, but anyway, Google web service, version 3, I'll just show you. Because we do not have a server at this point, we better get a request from a Google itself, because yesterday example was trying to get a latitude and longitude, and is there any way I can convert the latitude longitude into a readable address. Google has various web service for it. All you need to send the latitude and longitude, you can get a JSON or XML response and you can display in your app. So that's what I was trying. Of course it works, but the problem is that various changes has happened over the period of time, and right now Google requires a registration who's accessing their web service. So for that, uh, they have a various, for example, let me see, a geocoding API. Remember that top disclaimer itself says The document discussed geocoding API 3. Note that geocoding API 2 has been turned down and is no longer available. So this is a huge problem for apps developer because it's evolving standards. Even your Android, iOS, or any other mobile-based applications, it's all evolving standard. I mean, things are, maybe changed over the period of time, and you would be required to give an updates for your apps which is using some predated or maybe old APIs. So this is how mobile application developers going to be, they're going to work on. There is going to be huge change on the document anytime maybe. So previously there was a version 2 which I can simply call an URL and get a response. Right now that URL has to be sent with an API key. For example, I'd like to, for example, see, this is the URL where you need to call with a valid address. For example, you can replace it as a ASV Suntech Park, Thuraipakkam, something like that. Once you call this URL, you will get a JSON response stating that the particular latitude, longitude of your the readable address. So this web service is pretty cool. For example, when the user types the address, click hit, and you can display it on the map where the particular location is. So because you're getting a latitude longitude, you can latch it to a map API. But before it was pretty obvious and things were pretty clean. But if you notice the last parameter key, API key, because you need to send a API key generated from Google, because it wants to know like which app is accessing their APIs. And generating APIs, the instruction is being given in the same website itself. Of course, you don't need to follow as of now. Just trying to say we are going to do this. There is a API console. Maybe they have also given a link. So there are a couple of information. They can visit API console and log into your Google account. You need a Gmail account. I don't know. Can you access Gmail here? Okay. So services something. Okay. So I already created a couple of APIs. API keys. I have logged in using my Gmail account. In that API access tab, if you notice, so if you see this API key has been created with a checksum value. For example, it looks like your Android package name. You need to tell which application is accessing their URLs, and they'll give you a kind of API key, maybe an encrypted password or whatever. So you need to add the API every time when you make a request to the following URLs. Then only the Google will give you a response back. So we have to do that because right now, for simple example, we are going to depend on Google web service which has already been written. But in a real scenario, if you are working for a banking or any other app which gives you a web service, they may give you a separate documentation for a list of URLs, which URL for which page you need to call. They may have their own way of credentials or signing in process. Maybe your colleague who's working on the web development, he may give you that. So we have to do this part. But before doing all, first we need to understand how to make a HTTP request from Android app, and how to receive the response, how to handle the response. There are various other scenarios also would be, because it is going to be a time-taking process. First thing, you are accessing a remote URL. Your phone should have a data connection. One, the first requirement, at least through Wi-Fi or through 3G or 2G, whatever way. So naturally, if there is no data connection, this particular part may not work. One, even though if you have an internet, it depends on the speed as well. The data which you are trying to bring, if it is heavyweight, it consists more number of, for example, you are bringing a heavyweight a web service, a JSON, which is something 1 MB. So you have to wait until the whole 1 MB is downloaded in your app, or to reference to a particular object. It depends on your internet speed, of course. So if you have faster internet, these things may be faster, otherwise it may be slower. So it's going to be a time-taking process. We have already addressed that concern. If any process is going to take a longer time, we have already one scenario like service which can handle something behind the screen. and it is a long running process. So that already we have addressed that. So where to write this kind of web service HTTP request and a response call? If at all we are writing an activity, what are all the challenges we are going to see? If at all we are going to write on service, what are the challenges we are going to see? Everything we are going to look at it. Uh, of course, I would like to see whatever restriction you have. That also I need to know. For example, the very first example, I'm trying to get load an image from a URL. We'll think about that loading in JSON a little later, because you already know um, how to parse the JSON, because we have already seen it. But like to know, for example, let me try some images available. So I'm already into Google. Popular figures. I just need a URL of the particular image. I think so. This is the URL of a shared image, whatever available. I would like to know whether you can access such a URL. You can load it in your browser, because make sure you check. If doesn't access, of course your emulator also cannot access internet. That also you need to verify. Uh, the best one may be open your emulator, open the browser application, try to see you can access internet. The very first test, we have to verify whether my emulator can access internet. If not, you're going to have a serious trouble. See, of course, see, my emulator loads a I mean Google site, or maybe I can, this V won't work. Okay, let me call the image here itself. So I can access the internet. My emulator has access to internet. Uh, do you get access? Can you load website inside the emulator? The browser application, please check. Open your emulator. If not, if anybody has already opened, uh, please open your browser application inside the emulator. Which is located inside the emulator. For example, here an application called browser is there. Make sure you can access internet inside. If it is there, no problem, your application can access your any internet specific calls. This is important point we need to verify. Okay, if everything goes fine, and we can go ahead and proceed loading this particular image in our application. Me handling the remote calls, probably having through an image itself will be very nice. This time I'm going to receive a kind of input stream, which is something based off image. Maybe next I will receive a text specific or maybe string specific files. Okay, so we'll write a very simple application. We don't want to some my image app, whatever. I'll also give you a way to export your application. Last time we saw some sort of errors came while we had an app compat package open. So this time we'll also see how to export it with the app compact. We need to get rid of the lint errors, like something which is popping up when you try to create APK. So I'm just going ahead with whatever the default settings there, 2.2 minimum and the maximum APIs according to your installation. Custom launcher, I prefer whatever. Blank activity, finish. Thankfully it created without any errors. That's really nice. So just let us have a placeholder for our image to be loaded. I have an image view. Content description something it will be. I give app name itself. It's just an image view. Only one image view is there, so it is there. I'm assuming. I'm going to load the image which is coming from internet to here. Standard practice. Let us initialize the image view widget. What is this? Careful when selecting the key. It is called ing output. Okay. The easiest way could be like show it with the button. We'll also put a button to load an image instead of directly loading. Some button. Text, we have a practice of defining everything through values folder. Make it as a practice, even though sometime you will feel try to hard code it and finish our example, but this practice will pay you, because when you try to issue a multiple language support, will be very useful. I'm just going to give a very generic name, because I have some other thing to be uh, shown. I'm adding two buttons. Some other. Instead of click, we can give just test. This going to be a relative layout, so line, we have to fix one particular layout for the top, and having that as a reference, I'm bringing the other one below to it. That's the idea I keep. Okay. Okay. And it has to be below to. Okay. a generic button which is for something test, and I have another button called load image. I'm trying to make, like, when the moment I click this load image, I am going to call a URL and load the image here. So let's see, looks fine. I kept this button for one specific reason, even though it is not going to handle any callbacks. Button which is going to handle, you can have the on-click listener, so it has been implemented. I would recommend, instead of having a on-click listener declared fully on the activity itself, you can very well have that defined inside an argument of a button itself. That gives you that particular interface is connected to a button specifically instead of a generic activity. It may have some benefit, but that's also sometime would be quite meaningful. Otherwise, you have a lot of buttons which need a event listener to be handled. Better you can use this way. Okay, so set on click listener. This. I may need an image view declared global. The easiest way of loading or calling a URL, create an input string. We copy it slightly. Kind of. URL, give a URL, open stream. This will give you a stream. The URL I'll just put and you need to handle exception if any errors comes. Of course, internet URL is wrong or something went bad. So the URL, which URL I'm trying to access, this one. Your input stream data, it's kind of a bytes which will be called. The moment the URL opens the stream in, the data would start coming in. It is a time-taking process, even though, of course, the moment you specify the URL, the data would be started coming in, provided your application has access to internet. We have to add the permission as well. So right now I have my input string. Now I can build a bitmap object which is going to hold your bytes input streams coming from internet. Of course, this bytes is of type bitmap. Bitmap is an object or Android object specific type where you can handle the image streams, a picture, whatever it is. From the bitmap factory, I can decode the incoming stream. Assume you have received the entire image, and that has been would be decoded because it would be in a byte format. Byte format is a kind of format which, depending on the decoding method that URL handles, now converted as a bitmap object. This bitmap object can be uh, passed to set image bitmap. That's an option. So incoming bitmap image will be added to a image view. That image view can display the incoming image. That's it. This is more than enough. First, open a stream using the URL. The stream will receive the data if the internet service is available. Depending on the size of the data, of course, the image is so large, will take time. When the input stream is fully received, and from the stream I can build a bitmap object. That object can be set to a image view. Bitmap object usually for imaging, for example, pictures or anything else. There are various decoding options are there. I'll maybe I'll go in detail when I talk about camera object or where I handle the image thing. So right now, just as of now, you understand I need a input stream which through a URL I call the input stream and start populating it. And okay, so the moment load image is clicked, I'm expecting an image to come. And of course, see, you're accessing internet. This kind of white to manifest. I don't know which one is right one. I'll copy before deleting one. Don't know which one is going to be. Both went away. Giving me trouble now. Okay. Control Z to save me. Okay, let me try to run this. Oh, I haven't added the internet permission. Okay, let the application load. I'm trying to click it. Expected ANR because let's see what the logcat is saying. Network on main thread exception, or that itself an exception. You are getting due to the permission. I mean, you haven't declared a permission to access internet. Find one for GH internet. still. First thing, uh, assuming it is the same error. Okay, try one more time, see if the log prints. Okay. Oh, Android blocks accessing a network in a UI thread. It means, first point, I was again and again talking about it. First thing, it is a time-taking process. You may be knowing in object-oriented programming, a function block is a procedural one. After executing this line, and it will execute another line. Line by line execution happen inside the methods or functions. If any methods gets the execution time gets delayed, and you'll have a trouble or maybe exception will be thrown. The point here is this particular line takes a longer time, and your application could not progress to a second line. It has to wait until this particular line to finish its cycle. That will throw an exception because a longer running procedure is not allowed. If at all any longer running thing comes, of course, it is advisable to keep it in a different thread or different process. Have that particular part finish and come back and attach to a UI. There are various ways to do it. Let me try one of a way, what I'm thinking. Run on UI thread is one of a handler thread available built in for UI alone. I'm trying to put this block inside, hoping it will work. This will create a process, a separate process inside the UI thread itself, and that block you can execute. Once you're done, you can attach to UI. That's usually a simplified thread. Let me try if that works, otherwise we need to have some other workaround. This also doesn't work. Where's that lock at? Same error, so it's not allowing me to go ahead. The only workaround right now I have a different thread which Android exclusively has given for you to handle web service callbacks. Let it be as of now. I'll create a separate class, and this particular thread I'm going to talk about is called, we often say them as AsyncTask, asynchronous task or something specific to it. Let me write a subclass, load image, something I can write, extends async task. I'll let you know what are all the parameters. Add unimplemented methods. This async task is also a threaded environment, of course, but it gives you a various handlers. For example, you may know when the background process initiated, when the background process finish, when your image is available. It will handle various cycles. It will make a call to internet and run the particular block in background, and when the block is completed, it will give you a callback to another method. Assuming your download is completed, and then you can take ahead the particular data and attach to a UI thread, because the UI itself a thread handling or delaying the particular UI may going to give a lot of errors or maybe the exceptions. This async task a kind of a specific special class. Of course, if you notice, I already have a lot of errors here. There is a three arguments. One, another one. There is a abstract method which got implemented here. Do background, which has some params dot 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 something else. Assume. Going to make all the string, you can specify the incoming data type and accordingly you can handle the callback. I'm going to send 3 string. I'm going to, so right now, so this I can make it string, this also I can make it string. Which string is what we have to first identify. Assuming x, y, z. Okay, so this one, the parameter, is it actually z, the third one. Sorry, this one comes last. I think x, y, this is x, this is z. Okay, instead I'll do one thing, we'll keep a different parameter so at least I'll know. This is a bitmap, so the error comes here, so this should be a bitmap. If it is string, this is also string. Okay, so the parameter is the x position one, the first one. The last one is the return type for your do background. So whatever data you are sending, accordingly you can get a callback. So it's a specific handler Android has given and customized you. You can send various parameter inside the thread and expect the specific output from that particular thread. You can expect anything and set and get. There are various setter getters are there inside the class. This is what it is trying to say. So okay. There is assume a background task is completed on post execute. Automatically, the post execute, if you notice, mean when do background is completed, this particular method, this callback method will be executed. If you notice, the particular argument type has got changed to bitmap. Mean it is the argument is calling z parameter. I mean the last one. So whatever, if you are changing this, you have to change all. And I do have, okay, this particular argument, string and followed by 3 dots. Can anyone tell me what kind of interpretation I should get if I see string or something with followed by 3 dots? Have you ever seen this kind of a parameters in Java class? They haven't explained. Okay, if it's called var args. For example, variable arguments. For example, you want to send more than one parameter. For example, I have a method called some method which is accepting a single string. Which accepts a 2 string, three string. It means I have overloaded my method with different arguments. So at the max I can send 3 string using this particular method. For example, if I want to call this is true, this is also true, this is also true, but over the point of time my requirement keeps on increasing. Say keep going. I need different methods with a very option to send how many strings I wanted to send. This time, every time you cannot write different overloaded methods so that the matching parameters would be set. Instead, you can write one single parameter. It will accept any number of strings. If you keep 3 dot for that particular object type, it will accept any number of argument. It means it is sending a array of string inside. So you can send how many parameters whatever you want. So this is what it is trying to say here. So how I can get back all the data? So put a for loop inside, and of course maybe you can retrieve all the data inside method. So one single overloaded method is more than enough, and you can handle how many number of input parameters. So this type of thing is kind of a handling or pattern is called var args. So variable arguments. These var args are there in C++ and Java. Most of the, I mean, as far as I know, it's there in C++ as well and Java. Most of the object-oriented programs would support this kind of parameters. So this do background accept a variable argument var args inside, like that. 3 dots are there. So if you want, I just leave it as it is. And kept commented for your reference. So variable argument it just accepts. So one method is called do in background, another one is post execute, and I also have one more I remember on pre execute, just before it starts the background process, I mean calling URL. And you may wonder what is this guy, the middle one. Why? We know where we use, and we use x and z alone, I mean the first argument and the last argument. On progress update, for example, you may put a loader stating that percentage 1%, 2%, 3% loader, some loader you can put. In that case, it can be an integer. You can change the integer type. If I change the integer type, it becomes this one. So this accept y. I'm not going to see, you don't need to use all the methods. I'm trying to say these are all the abstract methods which accept the arguments. So if at all you're setting a async task calling this, make sure what type of data types you are sending inside, and accordingly the thread will handle your callbacks and give you a result. I set a bitmap because the background process is going to retrieve a bitmap. This one, this block, or what I've written, where it is, this block, because it is retrieving a bitmap finally. When bitmap is ready, it will hand over that particular bitmap once the background process is completed, and that will be a result type bitmap. Of course, whatever it is returning, it will be returned here. For better clarity, as of now, I'll keep null. So whatever a data type which is returning will be handed over to a post execute, meaning it's a callback method. The moment your background process, the background thing is completed, the on post execute callback will be called, and with the result whatever the background has produced. And here you can attach it to set image bitmap. It means complete the background, the thread, complete the thread. When the thread is completed, and get the result and attach it to a UI thread. It is the safest way of handling it. And the whole process, I'm going to move it here. Where is the on click? Sorry. It means it will handle the input stream, I mean the particular URLs, and it try to retrieve the data. It may wait any longer of time. It can execute behind the screen. I mean it is in a threaded different process. Once the bitmap is fully received, I think it is not right practice here. When the bitmap is fully ready, and it will return the bitmap, and that particular return bitmap will be given as a on post execute with the same bitmap value given as a data response. So that you can go ahead and attach it to a particular widget which is defined in your UI. So this is one of the safest way of handling URL related, something you're calling outside. Now run on UI thread is no more useful for me. Let it this method be here itself. Remember, this is for your example I have written, nothing to do with the image loading. Now call the particular load image. This is the one. I have no constructor here, so no input parameters. And finally call the execute and give the parameters. For example, your assume instead of hard coding, I'll give this one here as a parameter. A single string I'm sending. What kind of error it is giving? Oh, sorry. It's a initialization block alone. Forgot it. After initializing, call the execute. So once your class is initialized, now you can call the thread by a particular method called execute, and that single parameter, I see, for example, if you have more than one URL, I think it will be more appropriate if a list view contains image thumbnail. A list view may have more number of images, so you can give all separated by comma different URL. It will start loading every images and attach to it. But this point I only have one single image view, so only one URL I'm loading it. That's the reason I made it as a parameter 0, and instead I can make it as a URL. Okay. In this case, I'm just accessing the very first URL, so that's the reason I gave 0, because we know how to retrieve it using a for loop. Otherwise, you can put a for loop inside and retrieve it, but as of now, this is the only one. Okay, done. It looks fine. Now I got my image loaded inside the application. So it handled everything behind the screen and loaded the image through an URL. The background process was handled by AsyncTask. AsyncTask is a specific and special class which gives various handle callbacks to a thread. I mean, you can access a pre-execute, mean just before the execution start. Maybe you can put a loader stating that 0%, and in a do background, mean the background process started. You can put a small loader saying that percentage 1, 2, 3, 4 something increasing, and when everything is done, it gives a post execute. I mean, it executes the post execute callback method with the return type. This three type of data, I mean input arguments, it should be based on, for example, the first string, the argument which comes as a whatever argument you specify inside the do background, uh, as an I mean argument, whatever argument you are specifying should be the first one. And this particular second one, integer, it is used for mostly on progress update, for example, any progress update whatever happened. The third one is very important. What is the expected output? It says I'm expecting a bitmap to come, so I need to change everything accordingly. So for your reference, I have already separated to XYZ, so which one to come where. If you are changing this, make sure you change the inner methods as well, or if your requirement is different, accordingly have a different async task call for it. So this is a proper way of handling URL callbacks. So this time we have only loaded an image. Maybe we can further put a progress dialog. This progress dialog would require context, I remember, so I need a I'm adding a constructor because I need a context. Because progress dialog is something to do with the UI, some sort of dialog I'm going to put. Context, the title, download about to start. Make sure it is always the context coming from activity because something to do with the UI. Changing the message, download started. dismiss it when your download is completed. I think I cannot guarantee you will see this image, because if the image is loaded too quickly, this dialog will disappear so fast. And couple of things I need to make sure. Make sure you set the set cancelable to false, because chances are they use it simply hit a back button. So your download may be disturbed. This is really annoying. Okay. See, I think if my internet is okay, now it's done. Uh, till it load, a progress bar was displayed. Let me try one more time. It will re-download. The one message did not display because it immediately started. Download about to start did not display because immediately it called the background stuff. The background waited for some time. When everything done, it simply dismissed. That's why I could not see that complete message. But of course, you can handle them. Uh, if you want to progress update, no, that I'll explain it, because I need numbers. I need to know the percentage of it is loading. So this part I'll do it a little later, but not to be overloading this particular example too much. So right now we have created a simple loader as well. As we progress, we will see how to save this image into our SD card. We will see other those examples of whatever image we are loading. We can download it in our SD card, so we can have it saved. And okay, this I thought of putting this because since I have added the loader, I cannot access the background thing. If there is no, progress dialog, that test button would not have any problem because it is running in a thread. So till this particular image is loaded, you can so easily handle other UI elements which won't disturb your execution. So that is what the progress dialog handles. The AsyncTask handle the URL callbacks and doesn't disturb your URL and other widgets, and it doesn't disturb the other call, for example click listener or whatever listeners define inside. So this is a very simple example of handling the URLs. In this example, we loaded an image from an URL. We have used AsyncTask to handle the URL callback, and we have also added a progress dialog which displays three types of information while it downloads the image, and we are using input stream to open the URL and get the stream and decode them into a bitmap, and that bitmap is finally attached to a image view. And this has been defined as one of inner class, and it has been written on activity. You will have a different scenario if you define the same in a service. Of course, you cannot define the same in broadcast SEO. Broadcast SEO won't give much time, of course, uh, nothing to do with the UI. But if you are loading something background, you are defining this async task inside a service, make sure you don't put any visible elements such as progress dialog, because the service does not have any connectivity to the UI. And of course, you can execute them behind the screen, save it to your SD card. The image will be in background, will be downloaded in the SD card. Then you, when everything is done, you can notify the user the download is complete, and after that, your user may open the application. If at all, if you define these things inside a service, or if you are defining this class as an independent class which is defined outside of your particular activity or service, make sure you have interfaces to give the callbacks to the activity or service or anywhere it is defined. We will see a lot of example. Right now I started with the image. Maybe post lunch we will see how to call a URL and get a JSON response and display the JSON response into our application. So this is a simple example for image. Remember, you can put this async task inside a adapter also, so that your list view can have a image icons on every occurrence. So various ideas you can build on the top of it. And this is this kind of image loading also called lazy loading, mean the image is loaded little after some time, uh, not I mean by not disturbing the UI thread. So sometime if your manager say, hey, lazy load the image, mean not to be confused, this is what he may be demanding. It's a verb terminology. We often say, like, when the UI is loaded and later the images or anything we load it little later. So those kind of things we call them as a lazy loading. So this is a typical example of a lazy loading as well. Okay, so that's it.